Today's broadcast, where we're going to be showing you Envisioneer and MiTek and the integration between both companies, how you can take the information from your BIM model and send it out so you can complete the design in the MiTek software applications. We're going to be going through today and discussing BIM and the power of BIM, and then we're going to change the presenter. We're going to go right to the MiTek screen so that you can see how the application works and how we transfer over the information so that you can use it in your day-to-day business. So let's start off just taking a general look at BIM and why it's important to automate this entire process. So for the past few weeks, we have been doing many different partner integration webinars, focusing in on how we can take the information from Envisioneer and share it throughout the journey. We've talked about engaging the customers in sales and marketing and using different software that we export out to so that you can finish a presentation. We've talked about sending the information for quotes and linking to different point of sale systems, and we're going to be covering that again next week in our presentation with Epicor. We've looked at sending the information out to ResCheck for energy efficiency information. And we've also looked at sending the information out to many different platforms. Today, we're going to focus in on framing and manufacturing, taking the information from that model so that you can create the framing and manufactured components that you're going to need to build this home on site. So we're going to give you a demonstration showing you the Envisioneer model, what we do to export it out to MiTek, and then I'm going to shift controls so that you can see the information that we're going to relay over to MiTek and how that information is passed. So I'm just going to get into my Envisioneer. There we are. So this is the model that we're going to be using today and that we're going to be passing over into MiTek. So when MiTek analyzes the model, what we pass from Envisioneer over to MiTek are the walls on every story. So if this is a multiple story building, we're going to pass all of the walls from every story over to the MiTek platform. We're also going to send over the surfaces of the roof. So the roof itself and all of its individual planes are going to be sent over there as well. So they have all of that information to analyze and look at when they're creating all of the framing information and the components that they're going to specify for the project. So when we're looking at the information we're going to pass, what we need to pass the information is to go up to our File pull-down menu. We're going to choose Export, and then we're going to choose MiTek Sapphire Structure MXF file. And it's that MXF file that we're going to export out and send over to them. So when we're looking at the information that we want to pass over, we need to specify the MXF file. So I'm going to call this one MiTek Export Webinar. I only need to create the one file, the MXF file, but what it's going to do in the background, as you can see here in a previous export that I've already sent to MiTek, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly today, you can see that it broke it down into all the individual locations that are available. So it saw my ground floor location, it saw my foundation location, and it saw the surfaces for the roof. And again, if there are more stories involved in this building, they would all be produced in this export that we create. So as soon as I hit save, it goes through, analyzes the model, and it breaks it down into those individual locations and the individual MXF files that we're going to pass over to MiTek. And then it's going to bring up this screen that says Export Successful. And you're going to just click OK on that. Now, that information is saved in those files. And that's what you can open up on your own machine or with the components manufacturer that you're currently working with. So if you're sending this over to your local building supply center that's using MiTek, you're going to pass them over all of those MXF files that it produced. So if there was one location, you would have that one file plus the surfaces for the roof. And when they open it up, they're going to see all of the individual wall surfaces and the roof surface itself. So if we take a different look at our model, if I jump inside here on a camera we produced on the inside of the building, and when we walk around in here, this is what they're going to see, all of those openings in the individual walls and all of the walls themselves and the roofs that we're creating with that. So now I'm going to pass it over to MiTek. Steve is here with us from MiTek, and he's going to take us through taking those files that I sent him. And again, I did send them previously to him, so he's already got them queued up for us. And he's going to show us that file information. So bear with me as I make Steve Morgan our presenter today. So welcome, Steve. Can you hear us okay? I think we have audio issues here, Steve. I'm just going to try to get you unmuted there. Can you hear us okay?
Chantel, can you hear me?
I can. Wonderful. Thank you, Steve.
Awesome.
And welcome to the webinar.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time today to be able to demonstrate the MXF import. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about this week working with the MXF file is the information that we've passed back and forth when creating this webinar, because it's just like what you would do on a daily basis as a component designer here. So what I'd like to do is walk through the process here. I have several different stages of the model here that we're going to walk through. But to start off, what I'd like to talk about is, what we're utilizing, and you've already hit on, we're pulling in a file called MXF, MiTek Exchange file. And it's a one-way import from the Envisioneer software into Structure. So we'll be able to pull in the shell of the building, and so we'll get the walls, we'll get openings, and we'll also get the plane surfaces as well as we pull them in. Now, why is that important? Well, we want to only design once, right? So we want to be able to pass that drawing from the building designer onto the component manufacturer and be able to utilize, their walls at, that point. And so I'd like to start the process off here by just starting a brand new clean drawing here. And so we can just create a new job here. And one of the keys here, as you're working with that building designer, is you're getting used to the way that they design the wall heights. They may design 2x6 walls on the first floor and 2x4 walls on the second, floor depths and that type of thing. So you can start to predefine templates here and have everything set up for you, so the time it takes to import one of these models is very minimal. So as we move through the process here, we're going to end up with a blank palette here to work from. And at this point, I can go ahead and import one of the MXF files that was sent to me this week. So we're going to start off with our foundation level. And basically, we simply select it, and it's going to pop up a dialog and give us ask for some information here. So we know that we're pulling in a level into the first floor here. And once again, you can predefine all of the wall information here, or you can build it on the fly as well. So once we pull, we map that level that we're going to import into. Now we get a dialog box, and it's starting to ask some information. And so what it's looking for is, it noticed on import that we have a 10-inch width wall, and it's giving us some options. We can convert it to a wood wall that would show studs and openings and corner junctions, or we can decide to just utilize the generic solid wall. So it gives it more of that concrete look at that point. And for this level, we're just going to leave it as the generic solid wall. And then once again, we're going to do the same. It found another wall, and we're looking at the style name up here as we're importing in. So I'm just going to go ahead and allow it to import the walls in on the first level here. And we'll notice, and let me move some things over. We'll notice that the walls came in extruded, you know, at the proper height, width. It even has a sill plate on them as well. So that's the first process. Now, as we start to move into it, we can look at pulling in the next level. So it's really a key. Once you frame in that floor system here, now you can go and drop the next level onto it. So as we go in and pick our ground floor, once again, we're going to get that same dialog box that we saw before. Now, this is where I believe the true power of the MXF is, because once you select where you want it to go as far as level information, and notice how it's mapping it at this point. Now, the dialog box is going to ask you some information. In this case, it says the style name is an exterior load-bearing wall. We know that it's 5.5 inches. Well, we want to frame that out as a studded wall. We want to make sure that our openings come in, that our headers are set up, you know, in the proper manner. So I can tell it to import as a mapped wall style. Now, this is something that a truss designer would do on their side of the world, and they would have, you know, a library set up of all of these different wall styles here. And so for this case here, we know it's going to be an exterior wall, and we're going to say, okay. Now, one of the important things here is we have this checkbox here that says remember details. So as you're working with a building designer, and they always use this type of wall as a 2x4 or a 2x6 exterior, we can tell it to remember, so this dialog box won't come up again on the next model that we open up if it has these parameters in it. So I go ahead and I can match that. And then for this one, we want it to be just a simple 2x6 interior wall. And you'll notice here on the screen here in a minute, what it's doing in the background is it's converting that MXF file into a format that will automatically port into the model here. So should be coming up here any second here. I know every once in a while, anytime we're on any type of sharing of the internet here, it slows down just a little bit. So I apologize for that. There we go. So now we notice that our openings have come in, our junctions, you know, how we set up our plate information. And now the next step would be to import the roof planes in. So that's a simple process, same as before, where instead of importing the walls, we're going to just import the surface at that point. And we're going to go ahead and pull that in as well. So as you'll notice here, you'll get the same dialog, and we'll map it exactly the same way here to the second level, and go ahead and import that as well. Okay, so now we have our roof planes on. One of the keys working inside the model here inside of 3D, oftentimes as a designer, you have to make some adjustments. So especially on planes, sometimes you have to work with heels and make edits and that type of thing. So we can, I'm going to slide this menu out of the way here. We can simply select on one of the planes, and we can come over and adjust the heel height to whatever we want. So maybe that heel height should have been 6 inches. So you'll notice on the fly, we can make changes. So now that plane just changed and we have that 6-inch heel. Now, something else that happens from time to time is, we have to check models and validate if there's been changes made. So sometimes we'll get revisions after the fact. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to grab a wall here and I'm going to delete it out. Now, I can do an overlay of my MXF and review and see if I'm missing anything at that point. So same process as before. So we're going to go ahead and import our ground level in. And then as we import it in here, we're going to get a dialog that pops up just the same as before. And oops, I'm sorry. Need to make sure and grab the trace object here. So we're going to grab that trace object here, and we're going to tell it to import into the second floor here. And once again, we'll see the same dialog box and map it. Okay, and we'll tell it the wall parameters again. Okay, so now you'll see this dashed outer line here, and that's the key because that's showing yes, you're following the trace object all the way around. Now you'll see this red blob over here, and it says, "Hey, wait a minute, something's not matching." And this is a great final check before a designer, produces the job here. So notice that this red line here, we can simply right-click on it and say convert to a trace object, and now it's going to take that line and actually build a wall at that point. So even if we miss something or a wall gets added in after the fact, then we can go back and do that validation check with the overlay and make any adjustments as needed. Now, I did mention that this is a one-way push into structure. Now, if you wanted the building designer to review after the fact, we do have a tool that you can open up, and that's called the Sapphire Viewer. So basically, we have a program that's free that anybody can download from our website, and you'll be able to review the drawings, and you'll be able to see the 3D view, the plan view. You can make notes. Looks like for the presentation here, it doesn't look like it's allowing me to play the viewer here. So just gonna bypass that. So I've kind of went through the steps of what a designer would utilize on a normal basis here, as far as bringing that MXF file in, applying it to the proper levels, going back and reviewing with the trace object after the fact. Now, was kind of wondering, and Chantal, we haven't talked about it, but I'd love to be able to open up and ask, what else should we be bringing in? Right now, we said walls and planes and openings. What else do you feel we should be pulling into the program here? And this is something we could open up to the whole viewing audience if you'd like as well.
Yeah, so if everyone wants to, in their GoToMeeting panel on the right side of your screen, that's a GoToMeeting console, and in there you can chat in and ask any questions that you have or put in any comments, because there's lots of different information we can export out of Envisioneer to go to MiTek. Currently, as I said, we send out the walls and the roof surfaces, but to other applications, as you guys are aware, we send out information pertaining to ceilings and floors. So if there's anything else that you feel you would like to bring in to Sapphire, just type in your comments. And what I can do is I can collect them and send that information right off to MiTek for you if you want to send those to me in an email or in a chat session. and we'll be able to get that information over to Steve and the folks to MiTek. So if you are currently using both Envisioneer and Sapphire, and there's information that you want to grab hold of and send over, let us know, and we can see what we can do to make sure that that happens in the future and in future releases. And let me just check the panel to see if anyone has chatted anything. But at this point, not so far, Steve. So if you wanted to continue, or if anyone does have any questions, don't hesitate to pop them up there, and we'll have a question and answer period at the end for questions as well.
Okay, I've actually covered pretty much everything as far as on the import side of it. So, you know, I'm definitely willing to open it up to anything else we have at this point.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you, Steve. That information was great.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone does have any questions about any part of the process of taking the information from your BIM Envisioneer model, exporting it out, or when it arrives in Sapphire, what you have to do with that model. Again, what we wanted to profile today is the ease of using BIM and the information that you can pass. So instead of having to redo all of that work, once you get into Sapphire, we've saved you lots of steps that the models actually transfer right over here, and they can continue off and with the work that they need to do to create those trusses and framing manufactured components. So if you have any questions about any part of that process, don't hesitate to type them in now in the chat panel, or you know, as soon as this webinar is complete, and if you do have a question, send them to me, and I can make sure that they go to the proper channels and we can get them answered for you as well. So let me just check one more time for questions and see if we have any being posted up there, because it doesn't look like there's any questions right now, but we'll hold the webinar for one further moment just in case anyone does have any questions. And I'm just going to make myself the presenter again so that we can finish off on our last screen. Okay, I'm just going to hold it on this last screen until we have any further questions from anyone. But there's the contact information if you wanted to download this, the software, the viewer especially that Steve was pointing out today. So if you're a designer working with a building manufacturer that is using MiTek software and you want to see the information after the fact, download their viewer so that you can see that, and you'll find that on their website at the address I've put up there for you. And of course, you know, the cadsoft.com website, where you can download our software if you're not on the current version, or if you're just reviewing the software at this point. So let me just look for one further call for questions, and looks like we do have one. Can it export back trusses into Cadsoft? At this point, no, but that's something that we're always talking to MiTek about sending the information back from MiTek into Envisioneer. So at this point, we can't send back the trusses, but that's something that we've been discussing, and maybe in the future that will be a possibility. Let me see if there's any other. And that seems to be our only question today. So I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules. I know how busy the building industry is right now, and I really appreciate you taking your time out to join us today. We have recorded this session, and we will be posting it up on our YouTube channel and on our Cadsoft website. So if you wanted to watch the video again to make sure you know all of the steps that are involved in exporting it. And Steve, I want to give a big shout out and thank you for joining us today and showing us the MiTek software and taking time out of your day as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Steve. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I hope you learned a lot about the integration between Cadsoft and MiTek, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.